This week on the TT show, AMD's Fluid Motion Frames is here. The MetaQuest 3 is launching soon. Mark Zuckerberg is seeing dead people. The world's largest LED display has opened in Las Vegas. PS5 gets liquid cooled, and much more. Let's get into it. Welcome back to this week's episode of the TT show. My name is Jack Connor. I'm a hardware editor over at TweakTown, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Kosta Andriadis, gaming hardware editor at TweakTown.
Yes, we have another jam-packed week of technology news. It is crazy out here. Well, we are in Techtober and Techtember, so we kind of expect...
It's just tech everything.
It is.
Is it tech arch?
My girlfriend asked me, this is just a bit of a personal anecdote, it's like, when's the busy time for you guys, like technology journalists, during the year? And I'm like, it's always October and September. That is when everything gets announced.
Yeah, that's like the big fall season as well for gaming and stuff as well, all the big stuff. But it's been like a little bit all over the place. Like it seems to be that it's busier a lot longer now, or at least earlier this year, April, we had GPU launches. May, we had GPU launches. July, last month. And, there's been big game releases all year long as well, with Baldur's Gate and all these other things. So, I don't think there's any sort of, quiet period.
Yeah.
Apart from maybe, a couple of days between Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah, this is just busier than usual. Okay, so let's get into the stories. So you've got in here AMD's Fluid Motion Frames. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So AMD's, when they announced their new GPUs, the 7700 XT and 7800 XT, they said that their DLSS 3 frame generation technology called Fluid Motion Frames will drop in September, and pretty much right on at the 11th hour on Friday which was September 30th, I think. Yeah. Or 29th. They released it. So Fluid Motion Frames was added to 2 games officially: Square Enix's Forspoken and the EA original game Immortals of Avium from Ascendant Studios. Now, these aren't 2 of the biggest heavy hitter games out there, but they are at least it's a way to see the technology in motion, because it is their equivalent to DLSS 3 and frame generation, which has been one of the I guess a selling point or a feature of the new GeForce RTX 40 series that has turned heads or gotten a lot of attention. So AMD was like, where's their version, was the big question.
Yeah, it's a point of contention.
Yeah. And what they've also done is that over the weekend, they dropped a preview driver. So this is the exciting thing, is that the preview driver adds a one-click driver level option, so you can turn on Fluid Motion Frames and their frame generation on any DirectX 11 or 12 game, which is basically any game. You can turn it on, which includes Starfield and a few others. But the driver says that it's optimized for 20 games, which actually includes a whole bunch of games: Resident Evil 4, Starfield, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Hogwarts Legacy, Borderlands, Dead Space, Control, a whole bunch of games.
Yeah.
But it is kind of confusing because this isn't FSR 3. The FSR 3 actually needs to be put into a game, kind of like DLSS or whatever it is. It has to have game-specific support. And so the FSR 3 version of frame, which includes frame generation or Fluid Motion Frames, is only available in those 2 games, Forspoken and Immortals of Avium, and it works on all GPUs. So it works on GeForce GPUs and AMD GPUs. And this driver version lets you turn it on, but it doesn't actually include FSR super resolution or the high quality version of that. So it's a little bit of a
half baked.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, and it's kind of weird because apparently it disables when there is fast motion. So if you're playing a first-person shooter with it on and you move the camera, apparently, like if you don't even move the camera all that fast, like it turns off. So you could be playing at 140 frames per second and then turn the camera and it goes down to 70 and then goes back up.
Oh,
And then some
nothing.
early word.
Nothing would annoy me more.
Yeah, I know. And with the actual FSR3 implementation, people are saying that early word is that it's kind of locked to your refresh rate or like it has to have VSync enabled, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
I haven't really tested it yet because I've actually took out all the AMD GPUs from my test rig and put in a GeForce GPU to retest GeForce GPU. So I will be testing it, even though I can test it on the GeForce GPU. I want to properly test it with the Radeon cards as well.
So why do you think it's essentially released half baked? Is it just a rushed launch, or is it like, oh, here it is, like well, we're sorry for not releasing it sooner. Here it is, and then just to say that they've put it out.
Basically, yeah. Well, I mean, they gave themselves. They said it'll be out this month, and then they released it on like the 30th.
Yeah, that's what you were saying earlier. It's like the final hour, but
they say it's like a technical test, the driver version, which is cool because like you can enable it in every game, so it's kind of like fun to see where it works, where it falls apart. There is like some ghosting in both versions, and apparently because FSR super resolution isn't as good as DLSS, so when it's enabled in Forspoken, there's some like people are showing in some early videos, they say like because FSR struggles with like particle effects, when you enable frame generation in that game as well, with the FSR super resolution, it makes those artifacts look even more obvious.
Oh, they look blurry and...
But you can enable it with just like native AA resolution and then it looks better, but you don't get the massive performance jump.
Yeah, I'm just reading your article here. It says...
It's a little bit,
It says AMD showed Forspoken running on the Radeon RX 7800 XT, where the 36 FPS 4K ultra high RT jumped up to 122 FPS with FSR3 performance mode. That's crazy.
Yes, but
that's like wild.
It's kind of like the DLSS 3 stuff where you get like 3 times the performance.
Yeah.
So it's similar. Okay. Like some people like it's a little bit kind of be like hit and miss, but like a lot of people are impressed with the fact that it works and like it works on like the fact that it works on GeForce GPUs as well as Radeon GPUs is pretty impressive.
That is very impressive.
Forspoken and Immortals of Avian, like it doesn't need that special like DLSS 3 is limited to just the 40 series and that's it. Whereas this works on the 30 series, 40 series, the previous Radeon cards, the new Radeon cards, but the driver stuff only works on the new Radeon cards. I think like there's some parts of the technology that just need to be properly investigated over the next week or so as people go in depth, because they kind of like dropped it over the weekend and they didn't because in my article I wrote like they didn't give media early access. Like I didn't get like a early access to it, like with DLSS 3.5 when that launched a couple of weeks ago. Last week we talked about it because I had access to it for over a week. Because as media you get early access to that. Whereas with this, AMD didn't provide any early access to it.
So they're just like, here it is.
It isn't necessarily a red flag, but it kind of usually is a red flag. When a game comes out and nobody's played it.
Yeah.
Like where are the reviews? Like, it's like, well, they didn't want you to play it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. They didn't let the media know for a reason. Well, that is interesting. Yeah. So we can expect, obviously, this to get better over time. And as you were saying...
it'll get better over time. We still need to kind of work out, I guess we'll find out over the next week or so exactly how it works. It's a little bit weird that like if the early report's saying that it needs VSync to work, which means like it'll lock the frame rate to like 120 depending on your display, or 144, and then if it drops below, like it'll go from like 120 to like 60 or like whatever VSync increments are, because DLSS and Nvidia's frame generation is VRR, G-Sync style or FreeSync style, where with a frame rate with a monitor syncs to the frame rate and stuff like that, so it can fluctuate. Whereas this one seems to be V-Sync locked, which is strange because
Awful.
gaming, it's like nobody. Well, I mean, most gaming displays now have either FreeSync Premium or G-Sync compatible, or G-Sync Ultimate or whatever it is, or even like the LG OLEDs now. Like nobody is V-Sync locked.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously there are people, but like most people, like if you're enthusiast or you've got like a decent gaming monitor, you're going to be.
Or you care about frame rates.
You're going to be like unlocked, like VRR enabled, just because it looks smoother and you get the best performance out of it. So it's weird if it is V-Sync. I guess we'll just find out more. So it is out. Early impressions are saying that it's good, but it's generated frames, so there are artifacts. With FSR super resolution in Forspoken, it apparently doesn't look good. But in Mortals of Avium, some people are saying it's a lot better in that game, and I guess we'll just find out more as the technology matures.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's going to be more game by game instance being this early in terms of the release. So you're going to, like, as they add more games to the list, it's like that game, the new game might be way better than Forsaken, and it would, as I was saying earlier, it'll progressively get better. But yeah, this is interesting. This is essentially cutting the knees out from Nvidia when it's backwards compatible on previous generations of hardware. That is and
if developers all
nice.
start adopting it, then it works on everything. Like it will just be an option there.
Yeah, and
it's called frame generation as well, like in the game menu, which is, so it's kind of like confusing because it's like, oh, DLSS kind of like they tried to like ray tracing is synonymous with NVIDIA in a way in the PC space, and now frame generation kind of is because they were the first to do it. So it'd be interesting to see how it plays out.
We got to keep our eyes on this. Yeah, we'll be sure to provide you guys with more updates as we learn more about FSR3. Is that about everything that you had on that one today, or?
Yeah, because it's all still early.
Yeah, it's very early.
I mean, the one fun part is that apparently like you can enable it with the driver in Starfield, because like a lot of people were were confused as to why, because that was such a big AMD sponsored game, why it didn't launch with FSR3, or why it's not in the official games support. Like it's only those two games, Forspoken and Immortals of Avium, which aren't, they're kind of like nothing games really at the moment because not many people are playing them.
Yeah.
So apparently you can enable it in that driver version in Starfield, but some people are saying that it just constantly disables as you're moving the camera and stuff.
That's
like
bizarre.
It doesn't take much movement for it to disable, so it'll go from like 140 FPS to 70, and then
that's rough.
That the frame spikes or that it just doesn't feel smooth.
It's just unstable at the moment.
Yeah, it just feels unstable. But that version of it is a preview or a technical preview, so obviously it's not an official release.
Right. Okay. I think we should jump over to the MetaQuest 3, and then we can head into Mark Zuckerberg seeing dead people. So did you check out the event?
I skimmed through it and then read the press releases and watched the videos and stuff. Like I don't know, like I'm still kind of excited about VR, and like when there's a new VR thing. Even though it's I've got the Valve Index, I've got the Oculus Quest, I think one of the older ones, and the PSVR 2. So I've got like 3 headsets. I don't even use them.
I recently got shipped Pimax's world's first 8K VR headset, because I'm going to start doing some VR headset reviews. And I haven't even plugged it in yet, but I put it on my head and I can already tell that it is going to be a pain to wear over the course of maybe 2.5 hours, 3 hours, because it's so front heavy.
It is?
It's so front heavy.
But those sort of headsets are they just seem like prototypes still, right?
I mean, it looks like a prototype. It looks ridiculous. When you put it on, you look like you're jacked into the Matrix. You look absurd. Like
Okay.
there's
So
nothing.
after,
There's nothing subtle about it.
all right, after this recording, you're gonna have to take pictures of it and then put it on the screen so people can
Yeah.
have a look when they're watching on YouTube just to see.
I would definitely do that. But yeah, incoming review on TweakTown after I get through my monitor reviews. But we have digressed. Let's go
Yeah.
MetaQuest 3.
So at least with the MetaQuest 3, like building on that, is that it is thinner now.
It
So
is.
it is a thinner profile. So they're using that technology, something type of lens. I can't remember what the word is. That
There's always some jargon for
yeah.
it.
There's always like wording for things.
Yeah.
Like, I always forget what it's called. Like pancake or something like that. I don't think that's the
Yeah,
word.
that is one of the
I think
things
it's pancake
that.
lens.
Yeah.
Is it?
Is it called pancake
Yeah.
lens?
Yeah, I think so. If not, then I apologize to all the I guess.
If it isn't
Pancaking.
called pancake
I hope.
lens, then it should be. But yeah, that is one of the things that I immediately
Yeah.
noticed was
So
go ahead.
sorry, yeah. So basically, yeah. So that just means it's going to be thinner. So the Quest 2 was already like a lightweight because it's an all-in-one headset, and they did well to make it a single cable when you do connect it. So this one is now a lot thinner, so it looks almost like you're just putting on, you know, glasses in a way. You know, like kind of like glove covered shades.
Wraparound.
So it's so it's thinner and lighter, which is good.
Yeah, and it also comes with double the GPU processing power than the Quest 2, which is
That's right. So it's an all-in-one. So it's a mobile processor. Apparently, it's the first device to use the new Snapdragon XR2 platform.
Yeah, and it's also a mixed reality headset, which I thought was pretty interesting for them to release because correct me if I'm wrong here, but the MetaQuest 2 is strictly a VR headset.
Yeah,
And Meta has its MetaQuest Pro line, which is mixed reality, right?
Yeah.
So,
is
doesn't this cannibalize the MetaQuest Pro because they're releasing a $500 mixed reality headset, the MetaQuest 3, and then they have how much is the MetaQuest Pro? MetaQuest
I don't know.
price. Let's find that out.
But like this is replacing the MetaQuest 2.
Yeah, but the MetaQuest 2 is a strictly VR headset.
Yeah. So this one is going to have mixed reality, and that's because they've upgraded the inside-out tracking and cameras to be full color, and because they're full color now, and they've improved the latency on that. That essentially now it can do mixed reality stuff, which is kind of cool.
The MetaQuest
like it's not
Pro,
a requirement of it; it's just a feature.
The MetaQuest Pro is $993 on Amazon right now. So if the MetaQuest 3 does what the MetaQuest Pro does,
but that will probably be higher quality though.
I mean, I suppose, but it's still going to be still going to be cannibalizing that. Like, don't you think that would impact the sales for the MetaQuest Pro?
Yes and no, but I think that the MetaQuest 2 is the most, because it's the most popular VR headset, because it's the most affordable. Even if you look at the Steam hardware charts, the MetaQuest 2 is like the most popular VR headset for PC gaming by far.
Yeah,
and
because
even
of its
an
price.
all-in-one, because it's a single cable solution based on the price. So this, just based on the price, I think this is just them upgrading their the Quest 2 to make it more affordable, but also at the same time, I think they want a mixed reality AR to become more mainstream, and this is that step. Because I don't think it's going to happen with the Quest Pro.
No, well, the Quest Pro was also aimed more at businesses as well. Like, it wasn't essentially.
That's right. Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah. This is like.
This is consumer.
Exactly, and it's it's got a new display, basically 4K display, and apparently the sharpness or like the pixel density removes some of like the artifacts, or like where VR headsets kind of like always look slightly pixelated, or like
Yeah.
because you're so close to it.
Mm.
So they reckon that this, like, I don't know how they got the figure of 25% increased sharpness, and you know it's like 30% more clear or whatever it is.
Is it
Like, I don't
just
know
like the
how you
PPI?
can quantify that.
Is it just like the PPI of it all, like the pixels per
Yeah.
inch?
Oh yeah, yeah. But it's also like sharpness and stuff like that. But anyway, they've upgraded everything. So the mixed reality stuff is like, yeah, RGB color cameras with a depth projection. So you can sense how far objects are. So you can actually do, you can play or experience stuff with just wearing that headset and then viewing your environment, and then it just builds out stuff, which is kind of cool. And then the other stuff is that, yeah, the field of view and the refresh rates and all that stuff seems pretty good.
Mm.
And it's the same sort of thing where it's like one cable and you can connect it to your PC via USB-C.
That's nice.
And the other big thing is that they've announced that Xbox Game Pass, Xbox Cloud Gaming is supported natively via an app on the Quest 3. And that's just basically like the Microsoft's cloud gaming thing. But what it does is just creates wherever you're sitting using the mixed reality, like it just projects like a massive screen and you can play Xbox games.
Yeah, that would be crazy. Oh, that would
So
be
it's kind of,
so
yeah,
nice.
it is pretty cool.
Well, that's what
And then they
Apple
showed like,
announced with their Vision Pro, is that you
yeah.
could watch movies inside of the VR world, and you can
Yeah,
like,
but their tech is like next level though.
Yeah.
That's like the cutting edge of the cutting edge.
yeah.
Whereas this is actually kind of cool because it's affordable. Like I'm actually pretty excited for it. I'd like to get a MetaQuest 3. It sounds really cool because it's the convenience of it. Like as much as I like VR, like I can't be bothered setting up the Valve Index because it requires the base stations, it requires
Yeah, there's a lot that goes to
5
it.
cables, a little box, and etc. etc. Whereas this is like put it on
You're
inside
in.
out tracking, motion controls, without having to set up anything else. And to connect it to your PC, you just have a 5 meter long USB-C cable.
So what games can we expect to arrive on the MetaQuest 3? We got The Walking Dead, Saints and
Yeah,
Sinners. Did we have?
that's
What
an
did he
existing
announce?
game.
Did he announce anything else?
They said that it comes with a game called
Oh, okay.
Asgard's Wrath 2, which was an impressive Quest game that I didn't really play. But then there's an Assassin's Creed game, Ghostbusters, and a few
Nexus.
other things. But it's basically just a
Ghostbusters: The Rise of the Ghost Lord.
Samba de Amigo, Stiggers, like music game from the Dreamcast era.
Oh boy. Oh god.
But the thing is that it's compatible with backwards compatible with all the existing
Yeah.
Quest games, and it's compatible with PC. So it's more of like a, hey, you know, I mean, they've announced, like they've showed a couple of games, but it's like it's not. I think they're moving beyond saying that, like, you know, you're going to buy it for this game sort of thing.
Yeah, it's
It's
not
more
a
of like,
system seller.
hey, yeah, it's like the MetaQuest 2 is popular, so this is the new version, and you can do all this stuff, and they're going to release some, some of those like mixed reality games, which will be interesting to see. Like, I don't know how well it's going to work, but it's interesting that it's a part of it.
Yeah, that's very exciting. I think Meta is slowly turning, like when Mark Zuckerberg pivoted his entire company to go into VR, and then the stock
And the
just
metaverse, yeah.
plummeted at the height of the cryptocurrency, the last bull run with all the what is the word? It's like the popularity surrounding the word metaverse, and then he changed his company to Meta, and then then the stock plummeted. He released the I think it was the Quest, I think it was just the MetaQuest. I think it was the first one, and it had all of the cartoons that were just like floating
The
torso.
Quest 2, yeah, the torsos,
the floating
the worst graphics you've ever seen.
Oh my god, they were awful, and then he became like a meme on the
Horizon
internet.
Worlds was called.
Horizon Worlds was garbage, and now
It just looks so bad. Like, cause
It's so
like, how much
bad.
money, like billions poured in to make something that looks,
and there's 12 people playing it, and 8 of them work at Meta.
And yeah, it's all just like virtual chat rooms that already exists and has
Yeah,
existed
VR
in
chat.
VR.
VR
Yeah,
chat.
VR chat. Yeah.
Yeah. But now it looks like he's turning this around. And what makes me think that he is turning this around is that photorealistic interview that he did with Lex Friedman. That
Yeah.
blew my mind. And he even says during that interview, I just want to get the exact quote for us. Hold on, give me 1 second. Pardon me. Yeah, he says that Meta got feedback. I love the PR response. Like,
Yeah. You
the
gotta choose your
internet,
words carefully.
the internet was yelling at him, and he goes, Meta got feedback. Where is it? Oh, I just want to. Did I even quote it? I surely did. Yeah. Notably, the Meta CEO said that the company received feedback from the public that indicated, quote, people have a hard time with the fact that the avatars are so expressive and don't feel as realistic in that environment. So I think something like this could make a very, very big difference for those remote meetings. So he's referencing what we were just talking about, where the avatars in Horizons were haunting. They were grim.
But then like using that as like, this is your avatar and you're going to conduct business meetings with like a Wii, Nintendo Mii.
Yeah, a
like
me,
character.
yeah, like an amiibo or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever they're
Yeah, it was
called.
the Mii. The Nintendo characters.
Yeah, they looked horrible. So what he decided to do was create a photorealistic version of humans. But there's a caveat to this. It takes an extreme amount of scanning, facial scanning, that you both Zuckerberg and Lex Friedman had to go to a some facility in Pittsburgh where they mapped all of their facial expressions, their muscle movements, and their aesthetics. And then with all of that data, Meta then compiles it into a codec, and with that codec is then produced in the virtual world. This entire podcast is done in the metaverse, which is mind-blowing to watch. One, because it's so photorealistic, and two is I'm a big podcast guy. I listen to a lot of podcasts. It sounds like they're in the same room and they're reacting like they're in the same room.
Right.
And I can distinguish, if you've listened to enough podcasts, or if you've ever done a podcast, you can really tell the difference between doing it like how me and Kosta are doing it right now versus sitting across from the person. And this bridged the gap. Mark Zuckerberg was, I'm guessing he was in Palo Alto, California, or, you know, I'm guessing he's in California somewhere. And Lex Friedman, he lives in Austin, Texas. And throughout the interview, Lex kept saying that it was bizarre that how his brain is making it seem like Zuckerberg is sitting in front of him when he's not.
Yeah.
What do you think about this technology? Do you think this is going to be the future of communication? I can see this being used extensively by businesses, even podcasting for something like we're doing right now. Like if we had codecs and I could look at you, and then it's real-time tracking, it's real-time mapping, it's got all of your facial features, and it
has to be it has to be accessible to the fact where like a webcam can, like, you can just, you know, record like 3 seconds of video and then it'll generate, or even use AI to help fill in and make up the details, because like full scanning is not going to be realistic.
Oh no,
no. I think it's cool, but also as well, like how many situations are there realistically where video conferencing isn't enough? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like for most businesses.
Yeah, I suppose.
I think like, you know, maybe like 30 years from now, like if this technology is as simple, or maybe like, let's say 10 years or 15 years, where it's more readily available with like cameras will be able to like you can take your picture and or like a quick 3-second video and then you can have a digital avatar like and then you can automatically just AR and see somebody or whatever or project holographically or whatever the case is. But I don't like it's I think it's an impressive tech demo at this stage. Like I just don't think it's feasible for at least a decade or even longer.
That's an interesting take. I suppose I was just caught up in how impressive it was. Like, yeah, video conferencing calls are, I mean, they get the job done, right? Like Zoom and COVID proved that. It's like we can do a lot of what we thought was necessary in the physical world via video links, calls on Instagram. This is taking it to the next level, and
I think it's cool. Yeah, I think that it's way better than the cartoon Avatar bullshit.
Oh my god, this is what he should have released when he announced.
This should have been like a tech demo to show, hey, look, this is where we're headed.
This is what Horizon Worlds should have been. Everyone, like, I believe if he had that scanning capability, in everyone's smartphone, and it perhaps not to that quality, where you can see like like Lex's 5 o'clock shadow on his cheeks or something like that. Even if it was 25% of that quality, and you could scan it with your smartphone and create your own custom codec that is then converted into an avatar, Horizon Worlds would have been massive, huge.
Well, you're probably right. Yeah.
Huge.
I think that yeah, like maybe it is a lot sooner. Like because what you just said like made me think that like with COVID, right, and Zoom and stuff like that, like video conferencing at the corporate level, before COVID, right? Let's say you've got like this hardcore Cisco equipment or like these really fancy cameras, and you've got like a big LCD screen or OLED or whatever it is on one side of the meeting room, and like there's a camera capturing, and it's like sort of like HD video conferencing over like fiber link, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, that's video conferencing.
Yeah.
But what COVID kind of showed us, or at least working from home or remote work, has showed us that video quality doesn't really matter, right? People aren't hung up on clarity when it comes to that sort of stuff. So it's more about the convenience and the purpose. So like a webcam can with like a standard headset microphone can connect people from all over the world or in different cities and stuff like that for meetings and business. This technology at its highest level, what we're seeing here, looks incredible. But my thinking is that there is a version of this that's perhaps not as high quality, that uses your smartphone camera, like you said, or uses like sort of like lo-fi tech to create an approximation where it almost looks like a 3D video, and then like with something like the Quest 3, the only way this is going to work is that if you've got thin glasses or like you don't have to have a chunky headset on, because at the same time that they're chatting here, they've got headsets on, and that's the kind of mind-blowing part, is that they look like it's like just their regular faces or whatever just talking, but in reality they've got these like VR headsets on, so there is still that disconnect.
I think you're right about the quality. I think 1080p is the absolute, that's factually wrong. 720p for the general population is the bare minimum in terms of resolution. I think people would really notice the difference between 720p and 360p. Not as much of a difference between 720p and 1080p, but there is still a stark difference, at least for my eyes, at least. But for this type of photorealism communication, I think 1080p would be the absolute bare minimum. It'd probably have to be 1440p, maybe more in terms of like quality. I don't know how many pixels they're actually looking at in the virtual world, or like how this is even rendered really. But I reckon
this is like a specialized headset as well. That's like
Isn't that the
photographing you or
MetaQuest? Isn't
scanning
that the MetaQuest Pro?
you. Yeah, so it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like the MetaQuest Pro. I can see this being used at if you took the
Maybe it's
Lex.
coming to the Quest 3.
What was that? Sorry.
Maybe it's going to be available in the Quest 3 somehow.
I doubt it. You got to go to Pittsburgh to get your stuff scanned. But if it was 25% of that quality of photorealism, and you could scan it with your smartphone, scan yourself with your smartphone, and I had access to my arms, because right now they are just for the audio listeners out there, this is just floating shoulders and heads. That is there is no arm movement, and if you watch the full podcast, you can see both Lex and Zuck talking with their hands essentially, but that none of that comes up in the metaverse. If I could, I would sacrifice 75% of the photorealistic quality to give me arms, because then when you're communicating with someone, you can really see how they're expressing themselves. And I agree completely with your sentiment. It's like the quality actually doesn't matter that much, because, I mean, everything's at 1080p right now.
Do you think that like holographic technology could be as, I guess, as impressive as this? Like, or even like it's an alternative, right? Like, so you could have like a meeting where like a camera is shooting you, just a high quality camera, and then on the opposite end, it's just projecting a 3D image, like a holographic image. And so then it feels like you're in the same room, which is a completely different thing to this, but it's like, it's probably just as feasible at this point.
Well, Apple, see, that's what I imagine the future to be, where we're all wearing glasses that have dynamically changing lenses. So when you go outside, it immediately puts tint on your lenses, and then you walk inside and it reduces it so you can see inside, obviously. But where I think the timeline for how we get to that is Apple makes the Vision Pro, has the pass through, but instead of them projecting avatars or objects onto the physical world, they are instead capturing the physical world and then projecting the physical world in virtual to our eyes.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I would much prefer it to be the other way around. But that means where is the source of the, what did you just say? What was it called? The source of the virtual whatever projected onto the physical world needs to come from somewhere. And it's not going to, if it's glasses, then I don't know how high tech these glasses are. And so everywhere you look, it's projecting whatever you want on there. Is that how it works? Or do I have to set up a camera in the corner of my room?
You're just looking at a screen, basically.
Yeah, but how would that project onto the physical world itself? And would other people be able to see that?
No. Well, no, it doesn't. Like, I don't think that's... Well, yeah, with like a holographic, yes, it would.
Like, say if we wanted to play a tabletop game, like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or whatever. Do we both have glasses on, and then we join a lobby, and then we decide that this table right here is where we're playing, so we map it out with, I don't know, some like a stylus that comes out of the side of our head.
Yeah.
And what? So we're both shooting the game onto the table.
No, like it's all just like, well, it's all just an optical illusion, right? So it's the same technology. Well, it's the same trick that they use for like old 3D technology, where basically it's just rapidly showing you one image on your left eye and right eye, and then it creates like a 3D image. But like the way that that's going to work, like with a 3D table and projecting stuff on there, is that there has to be a screen as well as vision. So you have to be able to see the table, and then there has to be a screen, like traditional like 3D images being projected to each eye. And then it just knows exactly where you're standing and where you're looking. So it knows so the perspective is correct, where it can map the
Yeah.
room, and that's where all the processing power is mapping your environment. So with the Quest 3, with the mixed reality, so like, it can map like tables in your environment. So like if there's an experience that let's say it puts characters on a flat surface, it goes, all right, I can see this table, so then it will map it, and then it'll just create like, just kind of like where you can do room scale VR, where you can like, where the edges of the room are, like
Yeah.
it just puts like a grid on it, right? And it'll put a grid on the table, and then based on where you move, it always knows where's that table is. It's not
Yeah.
actually keeping track of what you're specifically looking at. It just knows where that table, it's mapped the table. It knows where that table is in the 3D space. It knows where you are in a 3D space. So then it can render the characters in that specific location, and then it knows where you are. So then where you're looking, the perspective will be correct. So all of that is happening at the processing level. And it's all just like one big optical illusion.
Wow.
And the fact is that processing power has gotten to the point where this is actually possible
It's
to
feasible, yeah.
do in a headset that you just put on is the impressive stuff.
Yeah. I've
Because
always
it has to like render and all that sort of stuff.
maybe this is just pure speculation here.
Yeah, so when they're obviously talking here, like obviously like looking at it, there's a lot of it that's just regular stuff where it's just rendering a 3D model in a 3D space on your end that looks like Mark Zuckerberg, right?
In real
And
time,
it's just rendering it in real time,
which is
and
amazing.
and then the lips and facial animations all happening, like all that processing is happening, and then on your end it's just rendering it, right? Like all
Yeah.
the magic is happening in the cloud or whatever, on the processors, wherever it's happening on the server, and then transmitting it. But like it's essentially you still just it's still just like Half-Life Alex or whatever VR game. It's still just rendering that.
Do you think, just to finish off on the mixed reality subject, and we can move on to a new story, perhaps we will see again, pure speculation here, a face cam style projector that comes with a VR headset, the VR AR headset, that you can offload some of that projection to. Maybe we could see, like, maybe I have to screw into my ceiling, I don't know, right above me, right here.
Yeah, that's holographic. Yeah,
Yeah, that
but
would be...
that's still perspective based as well. Like it only works best from like certain angles, and the more it's like obviously like the goal is to get to like the holodeck, like in Star Trek.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Where
or
you-
like in Star Wars, where what is it got, like,
yeah.
come save me. What-
Yeah, like when I was a kid, right, there was this Sega had like these arcade games. They were called like holographic, right? And it was basically just you look down and it was like this black thingo, and then you'd see like these characters like as if they were there, kind of like the Star Wars chess thing, but you could only see like a tiny little circle of it. It was super impressive.
Why?
But the way that works is that it's just like it's multiple little projectors like projecting like certain parts of the image, and then
Yeah.
it looks 3D from when you're looking at it. But that is wholly dependent on the perspective and the background being completely
Black
flat.
or whatever color, white or
Yeah.
yeah. The VR mixed
A lot of it
reality is so interesting. It's so
A lot of it is just optical illusions and using that in technology. So a lot of this stuff is like goes back hundreds of years of like magicians and like how they do optical illusions and light tricks of light and things like that. It's just basically tricking your brain into thinking that something is there that it isn't.
yeah. The future for VR and AR. Well, I believe that AR will be much bigger than virtual reality, at least in the practical sense. I think just like I picture like a classroom full of kids all putting on either a mixed reality headset, and then say they're in biology, and then the teacher pulls up a human body, male or female, and goes,
and there's the physical thing that they can react, and there's depth perception. That's like the thing that is actually cool about the Quest 3 is that like there's depth perception, and a lot of these things kind of like need that. Like AR is just augmented reality, where it's just it makes it look like things are there, but you don't actually have full depth where you can touch and interact with things. Like, and that's what you need to have. It's like you need to be able to have a mixed reality headset where you can, like you said, like if you're in a classroom and you see like a skeleton or whatever in science lab or whatever, and then if you touch like, you know, a particular bone, then it pops up like information about it, and then you can see it in the space and you can interact with your hand.
Skin, and then it just like shows the entire muscle.
Any sort of like tactile control is what takes it to the next level. It's just like with VR. Like VR initially was just a headset, but as soon as they added touch controllers with motion controls that you could move virtual hands and just like, you know, press a button to grab something, it's like very basic, right?
Yeah.
But as soon as you did that, you're like, oh wow, I just picked something up in a 3D space.
Yeah.
And that just made VR feel, you know, 5 times better than just the headset, just because you could just pick something up.
I think Mark Zuckerberg is banking on the right thing. I just think we are so early.
So I just think like it just feels so like early. It's just so far away that it's like, how do you expect, like, how do you make money? Or like, how does this be like a valid business thing like for the next 5 years?
We have been on this topic for a while, but we should actually talk about the Mark Zuckerberg seeing dead people. So one of the things that Lex Friedman said shortly, not very long into the interview at all, he said one of the first thing that came to mind is him wanting to speak to loved ones in this 3D space. And then the next thing that comes to mind is being able to speak to loved ones that are no longer with us. And Zuckerberg said that this is possible with the inclusion of AI, but there is I want to make sure I get this right, because this is this is a serious thing. Zuckerberg recognizes that with this technology combined with the possibility of an AI, with possibly an AI curated to loved ones' responses, there could be extreme benefits for allowing a grieving individual to interact with a virtual version of someone who has passed away. However, Zuckerberg notes there is an extent to this interaction that could become unhealthy, and that he isn't an expert in the psychology surrounding this, so Meta would have to perform studies to understand it in more detail. Yeah. So basically what he's saying is that an AI would be fed all of the information about your loved one and essentially create an AI version of your loved one. So I'm guessing you would put in all of your loved one's interests, and I'm not sure how it would work. And then that is impregnated into the codec. And now you are sitting in front of your loved one that is no longer in the physical world, communicating with it in the virtual world. Now, I don't know if that's a good idea.
No. But like, it's possible, right? I think a more fun version of this is that, let's say like this exact technology that we're seeing here in the podcast, right? Let's say, because it requires all that scanning to get your facial muscles, all that facial scanning, just so you can actually, so it can render your face and as you're talking. So all it is capturing your dialogue and then using all the information it does to render it and do that magic, right? Let's just say you've got a version where it's like a celebrity, or even just like Mark Zuckerberg, right? Where AI now, like the latest update to Chat GPT, and even they said they're going to limit who can have access to this technology, is that with 5 seconds of audio of somebody speaking, they can accurately recreate their voice to say anything or do
their
anything
cadence and everything.
Speak, right? And AI you can have conversations with, right? So the technology is here for them to release a version of this where it is Zuckerberg's voice, because they've got enough of it, where the AI can do it, and it can say anything, and you can just converse with an AI that looks and sounds like a celebrity or somebody that's had their face scanned.
Which is bizarre.
Which is just bizarre.
It's so weird. And I don't think any of those facial, like, you know how you were saying it's their face has been scanned and their voice has been taken. That doesn't mean that it comes with their personality. So if you're communicating with Snoop Dogg as he was displayed as like the dungeon master during the event or whatever, It's not
Yeah.
actually Snoop Dogg. It just looks like Snoop Dogg and it sounds like Snoop Dogg, but it doesn't do any of the things that Snoop Dogg would do. So why would I want to communicate with them?
Yeah. And
It's
so
it's an
there was
empty shell.
you know, Black Mirror. So like there was that
Mm.
one of the very first episodes of it when it was on when it was just in the UK. So one of it was basically based on that, where you could speak with a loved one. So it's a woman who speaks to her recently deceased husband who died young in a car crash, right?
Yep.
And so it creates like almost like a lifelike robot of him, and it has his voice or whatever recreated by AI, but it recreated his entire personality based on all the information that existed of them online. So it's only what you post on social media, and what information is about you online, right?
Yeah.
So so she immediately, or not immediately, but then gradually it's like, oh, this is creepy because yes, it knows everything about him and a lot of information is correct, but it's a version that isn't real.
Yeah.
So like even if you were to like if AI was to scrape everything about a celebrity online, like all their, you know, interview appearances and talk shows and stuff like that, it could create a version that knows enough about them that it would seem kind of realistic, but it wouldn't be real. You know what I mean?
I think it would feel hollow.
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to be a human, a bit of human intuition. Like that's a human feeling sitting, like say even for this podcast, for example, it's like we are still communicating fluidly. I don't feel like you're here though.
No.
And to
in spirit.
I mean, yeah, of course, in spirit, TweakTown spirit. But to be able to bridge that gap, I think it's going to take something really special. And scanning with a lot, or like feeding a large language model a bunch of data about someone, I feel like you would need it maybe like. Maybe if they did like Joe Rogan or something, because he's got like 1,900 episodes of a podcast of him speaking
would
for
it be 100% realistic though? It still wouldn't be.
No, I still feel like if you had that photorealistic version sitting of Joe Rogan in front of you, you still can feel that it's not human.
I think it'll work best as like a fictional character, right?
Yes,
like,
that's exactly right.
You just want to like hang out with Indiana Jones and
that
Iron
would be
Man,
wild.
Spider-Man, right? And there's enough information about those characters that, you know, just scans every book and comic or movie and stuff like that. And then like in that sort of instance, yeah.
Well,
I just don't think,
because you have the suspension of disbelief in that.
yeah, recreating real people, I think it's too much of a gray area as well, where it's like,
where do you stop?
it could just it can be used in such a bad way.
Yeah.
And it could have potential damage that we don't know or even understand, especially because like Zuckerberg says, like psychology and stuff like that, you don't know what.
People would live, like if their partner died, they would just live in the virtual world speaking to someone that doesn't exist, which is, I mean, that's so grim. Anyway, we have harped on about this for too long. We should move on. I'm just going to jump straight over to Apple responding to the iPhone 15 overheating issues. So if you've been keeping up with the iPhone 15 news, I don't want to say a lot of users, but there is definitely a substantial portion of iPhone 15 users that are reporting overheating issues at very strange times. So some have reported it getting as hot as 41 degrees Celsius, or I think it's 118 degrees Fahrenheit, which is just insane during setup, during charging, and during general use. Seemingly out of nowhere, it would just suddenly spike to this. Some people couldn't even touch their phone. That's how hot it was. So now, with enough of these,
titanium not doing what it's supposed to do.
I don't know. I'm not sure. But Apple finally recognized that there is a problem with the iPhone 15, and this just quickly, this is happening for the iPhone 15 standard, pardon me, and the iPhone 15 Pro and the Pro Max. So it's happening with the entire lineup. I've seen various reports. It's not just one specific model of phone. But Apple spoke to Forbes and said, we have identified a few conditions which can cause iPhone to run warmer than expected. I love Apple's bit of PR there. It is 41, as high as 48 degrees, Celsius, 118 degrees Fahrenheit, a little warmer than expected. The device may feel warmer during the first few days after setting up or restoring the device because of increased background activity.
You get used to it, just like a hot bath.
Yeah.
It's like just slipping into a hot tub. Yeah, it's a little warm to begin with.
It's a little warm.
Once you get used to it.
Yeah, don't worry about it. We also have found, this is also Apple here, we have also found a bug in iOS 17 that is impacting some users and will be addressed in a software update. Another issue involves recent updates to third-party apps that are causing them to overload the system. We're working with these app developers on fixes that are in the process of rolling out. So judging on that response, the problems with the overheating issues, at least according to Apple, seem to be software related. Now, prior to Apple's statement, a lot of speculation surrounding the overheating issues pointed towards the new A17 Pro chip and the new titanium design, which is
thinner and lighter.
Exactly. Yes. So a lot of people were speculating that, the new chip is running hot. It's running at load, and the physical design of the phone isn't, I don't know, I suppose dissipating the heat correctly, or the cooling isn't as efficient as previous generations of iPhone. But it seems that it is purely software. Now, my question is, Apple said that this will not affect the performance of the smartphone. So when this update rolls out, I want to see, and I'm sure there is going to be like 9 to 5 Mac, and there is going to be benchmarks of people that have benchmarked their iPhone 15 Pro prior to the update, got all of their benchmark scores, and then they'll download the update, re-benchmark their phone, and then we're going to have some fun comparing the data, because I have a feeling that this will clock down the SoC. It's going to clock down all of the components, because that is typical Apple fashion to roll out an update and reduce performance. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, the only situation where it won't is if where the thermal throttling happens is at a much higher temperature than what's actually happening here, and they don't affect the clocks at all. I don't know how you make something cooler by just a software update. Yeah,
I have no idea.
Unless there is like a specific bug that they've discovered and they're just not saying, oh yeah, there is a bug.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, this is speculation on my behalf. I think that Apple, I think it was the Ace, like it is the chip, because iOS 17. Oh no, maybe I'm just biased. Maybe I just don't like Apple that much in terms of like the way that they handle software updates and their hardware. I think my disdain links back to that massive lawsuit where they had to pay like 150 million USD to people because they were underclocking the previous generation of iPhone as soon as the new generation came out. Maybe that's left a bad stain in my mouth.
Oh yeah, my phone's slow all of a sudden. Get a new one.
Better get a new one.
That's so like nefarious.
It is so nefarious. But also, just for all of the people out there that are screaming that they're doing that for a reason, I am aware that they do that for a reason. The battery technology doesn't last as the battery technology degrades over time, and their, I suppose, solution to you not having a terrible battery is underclocking your hardware to match basically where your battery is at.
Or maybe that should just be a toggle that says, "Hey, we've now enabled battery saving mode. You can turn it off in the settings if you want to restore it."
Yeah,
back to the
that would be
original version.
awesome. That would be awesome. The
Because
nefarious
choice
part,
is what people want.
yeah, the nefarious part is them not telling you
They're
at
just
all,
doing it.
and everyone can feel it. So with them saying this, that the device may feel warmer during the first days after setting up. It was 48 degrees in some tests. 48 degrees. I think they're going to
that's hot.
underclock. If I was to bet on it, I reckon this update will roll out, or this bug fix or whatever,
Just a minor.
and it will be within 5%. Benchmarks will, like, the performance will reduce by within 5%. That's my prediction, and we'll revisit this.
It'll be strategic.
Yes. It will be. I don't think this is going to be drastic. I don't think the phone's going to be running at like, it's going to be 25% slower. I think it's going to be within 5%. It's going to be unnoticeable by the general public, and then people will, I don't know, people that have, or if you're benchmarking your phone, like you're going to notice this. Like, no, who benchmarks their phone? But yeah, that's my prediction, and we will revisit that whenever this update rolls out. They didn't say when it was going to come out, so they're like, it's soon. Next
Speaking
story.
of cooling.
What was that? Sorry.
Speaking of cooling.
Oh,
and then
okay.
next story. EK launches the EK Quantum X cooling station monoblock liquid cooler for the PlayStation 5.
Yes.
Now that sounds like a whole bunch of words.
We saw this at Computex, didn't we?
EK
Didn't we
had
see
a
this?
bunch of things. I don't think they had this. Seems pretty new.
We saw something with a PS5 cooling though, right? I remember
that was just like a heat, like just like a
is that a heat
SSD.
sink? Oh, that was it. That's right. Yes, sorry.
SSD.
Yes, sorry.
So EK makes closed loop mono block sort of like liquid cooling solutions. So this is basically a monoblock liquid cooler for the PS5. So what this means is that you would remove the cover of your PS5, all the plastic, and you would just have your motherboard or like the PCB, just the big green thing there that this goes onto on the front and back. It's pretty insane that this even exists.
Wow.
So it is a full liquid cooling solution that covers the length of the PS5's PCB, cooling all the critical components on the front and back. A total transformation for the PS5 with the Quantum X cooling station monoblock, also featuring ATX standoffs. So once you've actually put it on, you can put this water-cooled PC into a micro ATX PC case. And so basically it turns your PlayStation 5 into a high-end custom gaming PC. But also this means that you're going to have to use DC power connectors. So the monoblock removes the standard DC power connector of the PS5 and converts it to a dual 8-pin PCIe power connector.
Wow.
That will then need to connect to a PC power supply. So you'll need an micro ATX case, an ATX power supply, and a pump and a radiator.
Oh my god.
So being an EK product, it looks sleek. It looks pretty cool. Stainless steel, aluminium, nickel plated, electrolytic copper. That's an actual thing. Like it's a quote.
Electrolytic?
Yeah.
Wow.
See-through acrylic windows and a price tag of €449.90 euros. This is for the monoblock for the PS5.
It is that's a PS5
console. A PS5 console is €599, but so this is just the monoblock. So it's $449.90.
It's not even the PSU or the pump.
If you buy a case, power supply, pump, radiator. So for the price of a PS5,
just build a PC if you're doing this. I'm sorry, but this is dumb. Just build a PC. It's cool, but it's dumb.
Do you know how cool the PS5 will run with this thing?
Oh,
Because
who
it covers
cares?
the chip, the VRAM, the voltage regulation model, the SSD storage.
How many of these do you think they're going to sell? How many?
I don't know. This is just a crazy story because I think it's funny.
It's very cool. It's very cool that they thought that this was a good idea. I think it's ridiculous. I think they're going to sell 15 of them. I think...
yeah, but maybe they'll sell more. Like, don't underestimate because there's like 30, 40 million PlayStation 5s out there now. So
Yeah.
maybe they'll sell,
Well, you think even 5% of those are going to be buying this?
No. Because like this is a hardcore thing, right? You got to disassemble your console.
Oh yeah, this is a
install the
hardcore
motherboard,
thing. I got to go buy a
and then you got to build a
PC case.
PC out of it. Yeah. A micro ATX case, so but the thing is, like micro ATX cases, it's going to be the size probably bigger than a console than the PlayStation 5 is now, or the same size, more or less.
You know, the
thing
nerd
is
in
that
me wants to see the benchmarks for this. Like, I want to see.
It's not gonna. What's it gonna do? Like these things, you can't overclock your PS5.
Okay, then what is it for, Kosta? What is this? What are we just trying to make the PC?
Okay.
We're trying to make the PS5 quieter. Is it aesthetics?
So this is the thing that all these liquid cooling companies and any sort of liquid cooling product puts on, like, is what they say, is that if a component runs cooler, then it'll last longer. So it'll last longer than a PS5 that hits 80 degrees for like 5 years. Will have more quote unquote wear and tear than a PS5 that's running at like 40 degrees for 5 years. Supposedly.
Okay. Yeah. Oh boy.
It's just funny.
This is crazy. This is
At
crazy.
this point, you'd buy a PC.
I really need to go to the toilet, so we'll just leave the recording going 1 minute, and I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Welcome back. Yeah, do we need to talk more about this, Kosta?
No, that was just this is just something that was something that
This is
people need to
bothering
know
me.
about.
This is
People
just...
need to know about the water cooled PlayStation 5.
They
how
do.
You can water cool your PlayStation 5 with a closed loop system.
Yes.
With pumps and water and whatever liquids.
It's it is aesthetically pleasing to the eye. I will say that. I don't know how many people are going to do it. I would love to see the temperature comparisons between a water cooled system and one that isn't.
I guarantee it'll be cooler. Like,
I mean,
otherwise,
you hope so.
Right?
You hope so. Oh boy. Okay, so we're just gonna skip over to the
I think we could do one more tech story, just up your alley, with OLEDs.
Oh.
There should be a number of OLEDs coming from MSI. So apparently all this will be unveiled at CES, but MSI has 6 OLEDs coming.
6.
A 49-inch ultra wide, another 34-inch ultra wide. That's going to be a more affordable version because it's under a different product name.
I missed this news.
A more
boy.
expensive and a cheaper 32-inch 4K OLED QD-OLED 240 hertz.
Yes.
And a 27-inch expensive and more affordable version of a 1440p QD OLED with a 360 hertz refresh rate.
360.
So my question to you, Jack, is does this mean that OLED is, like, next year will be the transition where OLED will become, or at least it will become, the display of choice for both display makers and gamers for PC gaming?
I
hasn't already.
really hope so. Them shifting this hard into OLED, them making their entire lineup OLED, that is going to push MSI really high up in terms of the
because this covers everything, right?
Yeah.
1440p gaming monitor, like your esports competitive one, which is 360 hertz. That's more than enough for 1440p, like creative gaming. Then you've got the 4K 32-inch big screen 240 hertz for a more cinematic 16:9, creators and stuff like that. And then you've got your ultra wides for your, like, people that want to be fully immersed in, like, full aspect ratio, cinematic aspect ratio. A 49-inch version and a 34-inch version. That's going to be a more affordable version of their existing 34-inch one.
Yeah, MSI moving into OLED like this, I think you're right. Like, I think your finger is on the pulse, or it's at least close to it. The industry is ready to shift straight into OLED being the standard panel. Maybe MSI doing this is surely going to push other manufacturer, like MSI don't necessarily make the highest of high-end gaming monitors like your compared to like your Samsungs or your Asus's. And
They make some pretty great ones.
they make some very, very high quality monitors. I've got 2 of them right here, but they're
I'm
most
using one right now too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not OLED, unfortunately.
they're budget monitors, mid-range, and this is my opinion on it. They have a budget selection, mid-range, and then they push into the high end with their more expensive panels. But they're not, I wouldn't say, an enthusiast level gaming monitor brand. But them moving into OLED is going to make other brands that are at their same level, like your Alienwares, your what are some other brands that are Aegon as well?
Asus. Oh yeah, like but Asus is doing it. But
Asus
like,
already is in high end.
ROG monitors, they're like high end.
They are some of the best that you can get your hands on. But yeah, moving their whole stack is OLED. Wow.
Yeah, but like you said, like they do multiple things. So the interesting thing about this is they got 2 versions of each one, and like MSI's like product naming for monitors is just hilariously convoluted because it's like all just code names. So like MSI MAG or MPG 321 UPXQD, like it all just means what it is. Like it's not an actual name. It's not like the MSI Optimax or whatever it is. So the MAG ones are the affordable ones, and the MPG ones are the more enthusiast ones. So so they're going to have like these affordable ones, and I think MSI's sweet spot, like you said, is probably the mid-range, like the more affordable stuff. Like they create like really good stuff that like displays that value for money. And if they hit like each of the aspect ratios and sizes and whatever for OLED, like early next year, then like that's going to be a pretty big shift.
That is going to be huge. Wow, the PC gaming industry is going to be blessed with OLED. And if you're out there not using if you have never used an OLED panel,
once you go
OLED, you cannot go back. It's like going from 60. Once you go black, once you get those deep blacks, you cannot go back. That could be an innuendo. No, but it's a stark difference between going from like 60 hertz to 144 hertz. Like, but in terms of visual fidelity, is like once you've used it, you never want to go back to a panel that isn't OLED. It is the cream of the crop. It is where it is at for PC gaming, and MSI moving their entire stack to OLED. It only is an indicator that the rest of the gaming monitor manufacturers and brands are doing the same. They're going to do the same.
Yeah. So their existing one is the MEG 34-inch ultra-wide QD OLED. Apparently, it's been getting like great reviews, and I think it's pretty popular. Yeah. From what I'm understanding, like otherwise, why would they go all in? But that's more of a premium one. So like I think they're just seeing what they can do, because it all comes down to like the panels, right? So these QD OLED panels, you get the insane color accuracy, the crisp blacks, the instantaneous response times, right? So OLED has like 0.2 millisecond gray to gray, whatever it is, response time, which is like perfect for gaming, right? Like you can't get better.
I just finished testing Asus's. I can't remember I wish monitors were named better. Like as you were saying, they suck.
Like they're just ridiculously named.
Yeah, but Asus had a 26.5-inch OLED, 0.03 millisecond response time.
Yeah, nuts.
1440p. I had never felt more dangerous in Apex Legends than when I was using that monitor. It was awesome, but I didn't like 26.5 inches. My favorite is 32 inches. 32 inches it's big enough for me to do what I need to do work-wise with writing. It's big enough to be an immersive monitor for like Starfield, and it's also small enough for me to still feel like I'm locked in when I'm playing a competitive shooter. But moving to OLED,
same.
Oh, so nice, so nice. We should tick along to. Should we jump to keeping it on displays? The Las Vegas Sphere.
Oh yes, yeah, we definitely have. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Sphere.
Sphere
just looks bananas.
It is. This thing is. I mean, there is nothing else like it in the world that I know of, and at least according to other publications that are reporting on the same news. So for those that don't know, the Sphere is what it's called, has opened in Las Vegas. It is a $2.3 billion project between Square Entertainment and Madison Square Garden. It has a 580,000 square foot exterior LED display, the world's largest, which uses approximately 1.2 million pucks sized diodes, each capable of producing 256 million different colors. The Sphere was turned on for the first time on July 4th, where it captured the attention of millions with an incredible display of fireworks, the American flag, planets, and much more. Now, it had its first live performance. I don't know why they chose to do U2. Could have had a way better person to open, or way better band to open the show. But, you know, that's what's happened. The Sphere won't just be used for live performances. It has a 16K by 16K floor to ceiling internal display as well. And the videos, I cannot even describe them to you on audio, with audio. You need to go and just search on YouTube, search on TikTok, search on basically any social media platform, the Sphere, and look at those videos. It is shocking how immersive these experiences will be. Just the video, I'm just going to try and describe one now. The whole crowd is 18,000 people are standing watching YouTube play and it looks like they're in a different country because they've got a sunset behind them, and yeah, it's just mind blowing.
I guess the good thing about it being YouTube is that like you don't actually have to pay attention to YouTube because you're looking at the Sphere.
Yeah, but that's a lot of people in the comment sections were saying that.
Like a band that you actually want to see, you'll be kind of annoyed because it'll be like, yeah, like I want to see this band, but you know, I'm just sitting here
distracted.
Looking at the Sphere.
Well, what is also interesting, it is not just going to be used for live performances. It's also going to be a movie theater. So Darren Aronofsky, the director of The Whale and some other prolific
Noah's Ark, I think it is.
Noah's Ark? Did he do Noah's Ark? Oh, he did Mother, Black Swan, and Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah, he's a great director. Like, it's a weird choice to make a Sphere movie.
Yeah, and he is making a movie with a camera that needed to be developed to capture images at that aspect ratio of the Sphere. It is going to be probably the world's most unique entertainment venue, I would say. And
it's in Vegas.
The reason that they have designed it this way is I was doing a little reading into it, and the people behind it, the guy that had who is the Sphere's brainchild, wanted to solve the problem of when a band, let's just say Queen, is playing in a stadium. The people at the back can barely hear what Queen is saying. So he thought, okay, well, if I make it a sphere and put, I think it was
164,000 speakers.
Yes. It specifically designed around in the room, then everyone will be able to experience the sound at a consistent quality, which would just be mind-blowing. Like, imagine watching like Beyonce or Eminem or like just a really maybe even like what would be another nice live performance in that? Or like EDM concerts, like a Skrillex.
Chemical Brothers.
Yeah, or something like that. You know, those like techno concerts where they have like the T-Rex coming through?
Yeah.
That would be crazy in there. Man, this room. And apparently the tickets aren't even that expensive. They're like $80 US, but you'd think.
But yeah, I mean, in Australia, concert ticket prices are
shocking.
More than that.
Shocking.
Just to go to a local, 200 seat dingy, let alone a sphere.
Yeah. If you haven't already, go look up the Las Vegas sphere and check out the videos of the YouTube performance. It is crazy. Did you have anything else that you wanted to flex into? We're running for time.
No. I'm pretty
You covered?
good. I think we covered most things, yeah.
Maybe I'll just give a quick shout out to the astronaut that set the new world record for the longest time in space. Dr. Frank Rubio landed safely back on Earth with fellow crewmates last week. He spent a record-breaking 371 days aboard the International Space Station. He departed the floating laboratory with cosmonauts Sergio. I apologize, but I'm not even going to try and pronounce.
Sergei
Prokopiev and Dmitry
Ellen.
Patelin.
Yeah, and they're touching down in the remote town of where?
I'm gonna Kazakhstan.
Is that spelled? DZHEZKAZGAN.
There's just no chance. There's just no chance.
It's just consonants.
Yes. I just want to rattle off some stats about Dr. Rubio here. He was not meant to stay for as long as he did. He had his mission postponed because there was a propellant leak in one of the I think it was the capsule that was meant to take him home, but got fixed. Everything's looking good. He's traveled 157 million miles while aboard the International Space Station over his 371 days. Approximately 328 trips, which is approximately 328 trips to the moon and back.
Whoa.
He saw 15 spacecraft arrive at the ISS and orbited Earth 5,936 times. Shocking. He is the Frank's record-breaking time in space is not just a milestone, it's a major contribution to our understanding of long-duration space missions. Our astronauts make extraordinary sacrifices away from their homes and loved ones to further discovery. NASA is immensely grateful for Frank's dedicated service to our nation and the invaluable scientific contributions he made on the International Space Station. He embodies the true pioneer spirit that will pave the way for future exploration to the moon, Mars, and beyond. That was NASA Administrator Bill Nelson.
So when it comes to like being up for that long, right, isn't this like a case of there is like serious damage being done? Like
your
like
bone atrophy
density decreases, your muscle mass and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like it has, like, it's not good to be in space
not,
for long.
but astronauts aboard the ISS have a rigorous workout schedule. They have to like strap themselves into, and this is all to prevent the problems that you were just listing. There's bone density issues. There's muscle atrophy, similar to how if you like break your wrist and your arm goes into a cast, and then like 6 weeks go by, and then you take your cast off and your arm looks smaller than your other arm. There's a bunch of those problems, but Rubio and other astronauts that do prolonged stays are, I mean, they're pushing the envelope. They're the ones that are, he'll come back, he'll go through so many tests and see what the impact of prolonged stays in space will be. It's just the lack of gravity, really. Yeah, that is about it.
Keep your muscles and your bones in check.
Yeah, that's it. I think that is about it for this week. Did you have anything else that you wanted to round off the show with?
One final tidbit. I forgot that I covered this one. This would just be a quick one. Microsoft is planning to power its data centers with nuclear microreactors. So this wasn't something that they announced, right? So Microsoft posted a job listing. So it's for a new role, Principal Program Manager of Nuclear Technology.
Oh,
it's like, okay. So this is to plan and implement a global small modular reactor and microreactor energy strategy. Why? Well, because Microsoft is investing heavily in AI in the cloud. Oh, it's already happening with OpenAI. They've been investing billions in OpenAI. They've got their Azure cloud network. All of this requires computers. All this requires servers. And especially on the AI front, this requires a lot of data center compute power that requires a lot of energy.
Wow.
And with Microsoft wanting to be switch to renewable or zero waste by 2030, I don't know how this factors into that, but they're looking at ways where they don't have to, like, rely on the energy grid and things like that. So this isn't a nuclear reactor in terms of like a nuclear power plant. On the news story, I posted an image of the Simpsons nuclear reactor
I did
where
see
Homer
that.
Simpson works.
That is very good.
This
I
isn't
do like
that. Apparently, this is a compact, transportable, plug and play nuclear microreactor that doesn't really exist yet, or hasn't even been approved by governments and things like that. So this is like something that could take a decade to even be a thing. But they're looking at having like these small portable nuclear reactors that you can transport to set up their network of AI data centers and servers across the globe. So this is where we could be.
This is crazy.
In 20 years, we could just have Microsoft data centers everywhere, just powered by these little nuclear micro reactors.
It's very cool, though. I do like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Although,
I think I have to run. That is all that we can do. Thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of the TT Show. If you've made it this far, please go like, comment, and subscribe. As always, the stories that we've discussed in this week's episode will be in the description below, and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much for listening.
Next week.
Bye.
Bye.